Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Sound of Freedom. You are listening to live radio tonight, coming to you from FEMA Region 10. I'm your host, Ryan Brooks, and we are just happy to be here. Thank you for joining us. Another jam-packed broadcast for you guys tonight. Just all kinds of good stuff. We're going to talk about how Jesus was the first revolutionary and how we can apply things that he did to our lives today. And we're going to do it without trying to push religion on you, but just from a logical perspective, we're going to look at that. So you're definitely going to want to stick around for that. A lot of good information. We've got some distractions in the news that we're going to talk about a little bit. Just some things that you want to know about. We've also got some good news for the people, a victory for the people. Brandon Robb is now set to be released. So that is just incredible. If you guys weren't tracking who that is, I know a lot of people are familiar with who he is. The ex-Marine Iraq war veteran who was detained this past Friday for his Facebook posts. Well, the judge said, not having it. So we're going to get into that. That's definitely an uplifting thing to talk about. And as usual, I have my fellow lover of liberty here, Mr. Jordan, in the chat room, holding it down. We got a few people in the chat. Chat's already starting to blow up right now. The numbers are going up. So if you're in the chat room, thank you for joining us, folks. And as we're going to start this new trend on the second hour, at the top of the second hour, we're going to have the First Amendment Olympics. And tonight's special candidate, or special contender, rather, or the topic of our First Amendment Olympics will be none other than the Attorney General, Eric Holder. So had a great time talking about Mr. Janet Napolitano yesterday. We're going to have some fun with the Attorney General and how much of a joke he is. But, yeah, just a lot of great stuff to get into tonight, folks. And thank you again for joining us. I'm your host, Ryan Brooks. We are now on the Orion Talk Radio Network. News and views outside of the mainstream, and you are hearing it right now. Also, just so you guys know, I mean, we have some incredible shows running on Orion Talk Radio 24 hours a day. Shows like Down the Rabbit Hole with Popeye, the Freedom Link broadcast with my main man, Joe Joseph, the Information Nation with Ken, The Edge with John Stokes, Tom Donahue Reports with Tom Donahue, The Morning Brew with Gwen Caldwell, and the Sound of Freedom. So, guys, just don't come here between 4 and 6 Eastern Pacific Time, 7 to 9 Eastern. Check out OrionTalkRadio.com any time of the day. Just incredible information put out. A lot of great hosts. So show some love because, folks, we're not getting paid to do this. We're doing this for you guys. We're doing this to get the truth out. And, this radio show you're listening to right now is the fastest growing show in the Northwest, period. If you're listening on 1650 AM out in Buffalo, New York, just know that there's still some people with some common sense and some decency out here in the Evergreen State. I know a lot of people don't think that, but we're trying here, folks. So thank you for listening if you're out there in New York. And just if you're not ready already, if you're not ready, folks, go ahead and get a pen and paper because we're just going to go over some really motivational stuff. Sound of Freedom is supposed to dissect the disinfo and pretty much expose the hoaxes and the frauds and the threats to our country. But at the same time, we need to motivate each other. We need to pump each other up. We need to be excited about what we're doing. And we can't be controlled by fear. We can't let them just continue this and just sit back and take it. So another mission that we have here at the Sound of Freedom is to try to get through to everyone listening and just get them fired up. I know a lot of you guys are already fired up as it is, and I just want to salute every single one of you out there. You're already miles ahead just by tuning into this show because you know what? People are realizing, people like Sean Hannity and Rush Limbaugh and Bill O'Reilly, I mean, they're a joke. And people are realizing that every day, and I'm just so happy and honored to be an alternative to these deceiving liars, because here, folks, there is no agenda on the Sound of Freedom. The agenda is to get the truth out and to help you be educated, because the last thing they want is a bunch of educated citizens who not only are educated, but they're fired up and they're ready to do something in a nonviolent way, of course, to get their country back. And that's what we're all about here, folks, at the Sound of Freedom. So once again, thank you so much to everybody who's listening. Thank you for your support. Also, I mean, you guys know this is your show. This is the People's Radio Show. So as I say every broadcast, if you can hear me, get in the chat room. There's always thought-provoking discussion in there. Unlike the lying, dying mainstream media, we can back up everything we talk about, just like that. If I say something you don't agree with or you don't believe, we can throw you a link in the chat, and you can investigate on your own. Folks, the biggest thing we need to do is we need to question everything, okay? So when you hear someone like me rambling or getting fired up or covering things, don't take my word for it. I encourage you to prove me wrong. Go out there and do your own research. And then when you've done your own research and you've come to your own conclusions, don't just sit back and think that, well, I understand that the economy is going to collapse, and I'm not voting for Barack Obama. Folks, that's still not enough. And I know, I mean, hey, we've made leaps and bounds just on the show so far. But just know that, you know, knowledge is not power until you do something with it. So get fired up, folks. I mean, that's why I just said, you know what, I'm just going to start a radio show because I got a lot to say. And it's because of you guys out there that this show's growing. So I can't thank you guys enough. But at the same time, know that this isn't all I do. I don't just play on the internet all day, although it might seem like it with all the Facebooks and tweets and all the other stuff I do to advertise for the show. But folks, this is about getting involved at the local level. This is about taking our country back from the ground up. So I'm digressing already, but it's just so exciting to be on the air. Here's a good quote from the Bull Moose himself, Mr. Theodore Roosevelt. Now, I like to tell listeners, you know, Theodore Roosevelt, his policies might have been a little anti-liberty, to say the least. But as far as what he did as a man, the kind of role model that he is, as far as everything he accomplished, it's just breathtaking. It should pump you up if you research what he did. He did so much. But here's a good quote to show that he wasn't an idiot. He definitely knew what he was doing. And this quote can definitely be applied to America in 2012. Here we go. A strong nation can only be saved by itself and not by a strong man, though it can be greatly aided and guided by a strong man. A weak nation may be doomed anyhow, or it may find its sole refuge in a despot. And if a nation, free or unfree, loses the capacity for self-government, loses the spirit of sobriety and of orderly liberty, then it has no cause to complain of tyranny. But a really great people, a people really capable of freedom and of doing mighty deeds in the world, must work out its own destiny and must find men and women who will be its leaders, not its masters. That's a quote from Theodore Roosevelt over 100 years ago. And I know a lot of founding fathers are probably rolling in their graves, and Andrew Jackson's probably cussing up a storm. And I'm sure Theodore Roosevelt's probably ripped off one of his arm bones or leg bones and is smacking himself on the head with it because, you know, there's a lot to be sad about. But at the same time, there's a lot to be happy about. The fact that you can hear my voice is a victory. The fact that you guys could tune in and get in the chat room and exchange ideas is a victory. We are the greatest nation in the history of the world. We have faced incredible adversity and strife and struggle. And I still believe firmly in the bottom of my heart that if we can get enough of our fellow citizens aware and motivated to get their country back, there is nothing that these slimy robber barons, these global elite, these dirtbags who work in the shadows to try to fool us and program us and make us their little pets. There's nothing they can do once the light of truth has been shined on them. So, folks, I know it's easy to get beat down, and I still battle with that on my own sometimes. But you know what? I'm so lucky I have just such an incredible family. I have such an incredible group of friends around me who don't let me go back down that path of being, in despair. They pick me up, and that's what good friends are for. If I get fired up tonight, it's because one of my good friends made me go to the gym with him today. So I do have some manly testosterone going. So I might get a little fired up. Forgive me ahead of time. But yeah, here we are, August 23rd, 2012. The RNC is coming up, and there's a lot of, kind of hokey double speak going on with the RNC. I mean, there was a hurricane coming, and they were going to shut it down, and now it's going to go on unconditionally, and all this stuff about Ron Paul delegates and Paul Ryan is going around making speeches. I didn't even cover it yesterday, folks. Guess who is searching people at the door for the Paul Ryan event? Our friendly TSA. Well, hey, you guys hear the music. We're bringing the funk with Curtis Mayfield. Keeping it real. This is the sound of freedom on the Orion Talk Radio Network. Folks, stay with us after this quick 3-minute commercial break. We're going to get into some really good information. Get your pen and paper handy because we're putting it down. Stay with us.